Hello, friend. Welcome back. If you could see my desk, you would understand the situation. We have a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on. Venus is having a moment, a big moment, and I want to help you understand why Venus is so pivotal for us and how magnificent it is to work with her. We have a couple of eclipses coming up. Just no big deal. Just a massive transformation, some massive jolts of bringing you back to your path. The eclipses are ruled by Venus. So again, going back to Venus having a moment. We're working with recalibrating this concept of autonomy and co-creation. Just the bedrock of what it means to be human and embrace your uniqueness while working in collaboration, really co-creating with others. Just a couple things that we're dealing with. Oh, and also Pluto moving forward, massive transformation in a certain area of your chart, wherever Pluto is right now, that he just shifted forward and will eventually move into Aquarius circa January 2024. That'll be for another video. But that's all happening this week. And I think there's more. But let's begin there, okay? Thank you for being here. My name is Maria Alejandra. You can call me MA. This is Walking in Magic, and we are here to explore so many different facets of what it means to live in your magic, to walk in your magic, to create, to have the confidence to express yourself, and to a lot of times surrender into the many intuitive nudges that will point you in the direction of your purpose. Again, just no big deal. Just, a couple things. I want to acknowledge all the painful things happening in the world, and it's just, I just want to acknowledge that, and I want to hold space for the things that feel so painful and so sort of far reaching for us to impact. I'm myself looking for ways to see how I can have a positive impact in some way. And what I will say is during these times, and this is just a very honest thing that I was sitting with right now, when things are happening in the world that really shake humanity to the core, and they reverberate, you feel it. We feel it. We're seeing it. We're sitting with pain and just anger, not understanding, so many things. And as someone who's lived with my husband having a terminal illness, where there's not a lot known about it, and not a lot very little that we can do about it. I know what it's like to be in that space where you feel so completely helpless and hopeless. And in those spaces, we can always find something to reground us back into what matters and how we can actually make some sort of a difference and contribute in some way. And it's an interesting conversation to explore, because when things happen that really shake us to the core, I think a very natural, excuse me for the coughing that continues, a very natural human response is to basically recoil or shut down, especially when it's something so massive. And I think we can give ourselves the space to process, and also remember that we don't have to dwell in that. It is also a choice to be able to lift yourself back up and operate from a space of hope and not allowing that hope within you to diminish. Easier said than done. I get it. It's one of the reasons why I have found a magical practice, a spiritual practice, a sort of drumbeat for your life to follow, to lean into, so powerful, because it connects you back to yourself. It brings you back into this moment and gives you the tools to feel strong enough to then be able to support others and hold space for others. if we're not doing that on a consistent basis for ourselves, we're going to have very little to give to others. So I just want to take a moment to say that, because it's something that I always sit with. And don't ever feel like the things that you desire to create in your life should be minimized. Perspective is incredibly important. So we get to have the perspective of widening our lens and seeing, what's happening, and knowing that we're not a microcosm, while also holding that pulse of, I'm going to call it that divine thread that wants to come through you, through your words, through your creativity, through your actions, because that in itself has the ability to elevate and heal others when we do it from that space and that intention of love. So chances are that there's something in your life that you really desire to do, and maybe you're not doing it, or maybe you're doing very little of it. Here's your inspiration and motivation and kick in the tush to cultivate that, to give it space, to give it, sunshine and rain and the little fertilizer, so that it can continue to bloom. You don't have to minimize yourself or put yourself in some little box in a closet somewhere, because the world is, because there's a lot happening that maybe we can't directly impact, or we feel like we can't directly impact, or think we can't directly impact. You do have an impact, absolutely. And our energy and our actions, when they're in alignment, there's a lot of power there. And yeah, so I'll leave it there. A lot is happening this week. And to tell you the truth, I've been wanting to record this video since 3-4 days ago. And there are so many topics that it just made me feel really excited, and also overwhelmed, in the sense of how am I going to put all of this? So I thought, well, it shouldn't all be in one video, because that's going to be very long and too much. And then I was like, oh, let me space it out on a bunch of videos. And the reality is that that's not necessarily something that works for me right now, to create a bunch of videos every week about different topics, as juicy as that sounds. So, and also one of the things I've struggled with is having ideas that I want to bring out and share and express. And because I don't feel like my idea may be fully baked, let's say, I then have in the past hesitated to put it out there and share it, because it feels like, oh no, there's more that I need to put in here, or is this not enough? Are people not going to understand me? Am I doing this idea a disservice by not fully fleshing it out? And that's been a reality for a long part of my life. And so it's interesting to sit with that and still prioritize and put ahead of all of those feelings, this idea of somehow putting it to form, imperfect as it will be. There's no way that I can encompass all of the things that I'm, picking up on, all the things that I see in the astrology, energy, and the people that I work. There's so many layers, and my part of me is like, oh my God, what a delight, what a wondrous thing to have all of these things sort of happening and intermingling and connecting, and they weave this whole tapestry. And sometimes we can't really see it. Most of the times we can't see it until we're either zoom out a little bit, or we kind of give it time for the cycles to keep churning, and this sort of wheel keeps going, and then we can see and sit from a different vantage point and go, oh, but when we're in it, we have to have this trust to just keep it going. So this will be my effort to collect a few of the gems that I've been sitting with, that have been spiking my curiosity, and also have been in challenge with, in terms of questions and digging a little bit deeper. It's a wonderful time. So I invite you to grab a journal and grab something nice to drink, sit with this, and just, receive and see what sparks in you. And as always, I'd love to hear in the comments what sparked in you. It's valuable to have that interaction and that, space of connection and conversation. So Venus is having a moment. Venus is has become one of my favorite archetypes to work with. And it is very rare that I don't find when I read for somebody, read their chart, do a channeled reading, which is always in combination with the chart, that I don't see the opportunity for them to work with Venus. And the thing about Venus is that she has always gotten this, she's always been, kind of like minimized, or just has this like placard that says, goddess of love. And so we think about Venus and immediately we think about our love life, our relationships, the very tropey, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I mean, I have some thoughts, I have some takes on that. There's certainly some essence to that phrase, and yet there is so much more. But yes, Venusian energy is absolutely a core part of the divine feminine. And I'm going to go as far as to say that if you are somebody who is working with the frequency, the activation, the celebration, the awakening of the divine feminine within you and in the work that you do, perhaps with others, if you are not working with Venus and the capacity that she is calling you forth, you're missing out. You're missing a piece of the puzzle that's very, very important. Working with Venus is a profound journey of self-exploration, discovery. She's very tied to our self-worth. She's tied to our purpose, and she illuminates our purpose. She is both the evening star and the morning star, 9 months apiece. She is the brightest luminary in the sky besides the sun and the moon. She is connected to so much of mythology, of belief systems in many different cultures. She has been seen and admired and studied and venerated. Venus, her gifts run deep. And your Venus story is one of the keys to understanding why you are how you are and feel the way you feel. And when we are struggling with and working through a self-worth story, everything from who am I to do that to, the beating ourselves up, to extreme perfectionism, to imposter syndrome, to basically not feeling worthy of just being ourselves, and always working on ourselves and having that be just a journey that we explore and that delights us. Venus is there. Venus is there. I've been working very closely with her for the past 3 years personally. And it's been a journey that has just amplified so many things about me and how I see other people, how I see other women, and how I appreciate us more and more and more, and men as well. We all have our Venus story. And I will say that for those of us who carry that energy of the female a little bit more profoundly than the masculine, she is like, there's something that wants to be channeled and brought to life through your experience with her. And Venus this year particularly, I've said this a bunch of times, she is going on this quest, sign by sign by sign, where she has been learning, picking up things from that sign. She has been releasing things based on that sign and the archetype of the sign. It's basically like she is on this quest. And when we hold her hand and walk with her, then more miraculous openings and aha moments and really awakening to the feminine, receptive, creatrix qualities within you will continue to emerge. She is an energy that both, I think, emboldens us and softens us at the same time, which I love. She helps you love yourself and honor yourself with grace and to give yourself space um, to continue growing. Her cycles are magnificent. The things she works in the sky are just like so beautiful. And right now, Venus had this really big moment of transitioning from Leo into Virgo. She was in the sign of Leo for a very long time, and she did a retrograde in Leo for 40 days and 40 nights. She became the morning star in Leo, so we had a Venus star point moment there, which was huge in August. She was basically like revealing herself in a whole new light. Leo is all about radiating like the sun, understanding that you are the divine center of your universe, that you are the star of your own cosmos. And from there, everything radiates out. Leo is about the childlike sense of innocence. It's about the courage of the heart. It's about performance in the sense of feeling comfortable with being seen, with being heard, with roaring, with speaking your truth. And it has a lot of love, a lot of heart. It's very creative. It can be very spontaneous, very bold, and very like, just like I am here. Hear me roar, like watch me. And that watch me energy is what she was embodying. Now, a couple days ago, as I record this, she shifted into the sign of Virgo. Venus in Virgo is now taking everything that she's learned and grown through and stretched through over the past 5 signs. Now she's entering the 6th sign, which is the sign that I call of divine discipline. It is a sign of commitment. It is a sign of service. It is a sign of wholeness. It's a sign of earth and grounding in what we know. Taking the daily steps, moment by moment, stepping stone by stepping stone to get to the destination. Virgo is practical. Virgo is pragmatic. Virgo is also a healer. Virgo wants to look and touch and feel the earth right now and know that they can create something wondrous when they give themselves a commitment and follow that commitment to themselves to do so. So this Venus entering Virgo now, plus having a moment of just shining with the 2 eclipses. We have an eclipse in Libra, followed by 2 weeks later, an eclipse in Taurus, both signs ruled by Venus. Venus is indeed having a moment. So my invitation for you is a couple of things. Understand your Venus story. What does this mean? Where is Venus in your chart natally? What are the archetypes of that sign and that house? Find that story. And where has Venus been transiting through your chart? Where is she right now as she entered the sign of Virgo? Again, get to know the archetype of Virgo a little bit deeper. How does it connect the dots for you? What house is it in? There's something there where you can trust in the process of growing a garden, one action after the other. This is a time, I would say, where it's really beneficial to set the tone with your systems, with your habits, maybe the things you've tried to do before, but now look at them again, but look at them with grace and softness, because Venus wants you to love yourself above loving the systems and the habits. We can often use systems and habits to keep us so beholden to a certain expectation that then we lose complete sight of the point, that like why we have these routines and systems and habits and discipline and commitment as we're trying to, whether it's reach a certain goal or just have some things in your life that support your day to day. We can become so caught up in them and so like focused in. Venus wants you to soften and expand around them, to hold your systems close to your heart and see what brings you like delight of like love and magic and systems that feel good. And maybe in the moment, having a certain habit doesn't feel incredible, like committing to a thing and you're like, oh, don't do it. But when you look at the bigger picture and you see yourself walking that path step by step, moment by moment, then you can feel this love. A lot of what I've been feeling into, speaking of feelings, feeling into this time is the beautiful gift that we can give our future selves as we begin to focus in now, right here, right now, on the things that we aspire to create. And a lot of this is because I'm preparing myself to guide an intimate group of women through a program I call the Creatrix Lab. And as I'm preparing myself for it, I keep feeling and tapping into the energy of giving these gifts to your future self while not dwelling in living in the future or the past, like being very present and very much in the here and now, but pulling in the threads of the future vision that you want to manifest. And so instead of seeing it as, oh, I have to do this because I have to reach a goal, see it as these beautiful gifts and layers that you're adding so that your future self, in whatever sort of like future pocket you want to work with, has some has a foundation and has some things to work with. So that has been really inspiring for me. I'm someone who dwells in between. Routines are helpful, and also I just want to like be spontaneous and not have to be beholden to routines. And I've tested all different things and I've come into my own sort of realm of what works for me, which is this balance of focus and flow. But the focus and the routines have to be there, because the way I was thinking about it today is, for me, and this might work for you, is I work well when I have sort of containers to plant my initial seeds, watch them grow, and then put them in a bigger garden. And this reflects just gardening in general, which is always like this incredible metaphor. So imagine whether it's propagating a seed or planting your first seedlings, rather than doing it in a space that's like really vast, you do it in a container. So then that helps you focus in on the things that seed needs. And also it allows you to monitor its growth, not control its growth, but sort of monitor and be present to its growth in a different way. When I have these containers, so when I set sort of a goal or a framework for, well, these days I'm going to write the email to my newsletter. It's been really helpful to, I've tried also I'm just going to write it when I'm inspired. And now I'm trying to hone it in and focus it in. And it supports me. Same with videos. One of the things I'm playing with and working with, and I was literally doing it this morning, coming up with a little content sheet for me that I whipped up today, where week by week, I'm going to work with a certain thing, a certain content offering that I would have put out in the world. And I'm focusing on creativity and generosity. These are all things that are, most of them, available to everybody. And then, and then there's a balance of, well, there's certain things that I'm offering to people that pay a service to access these things. So there's always a balance. And that's where building a business in alignment is a whole other journey of discovery, of which there have been many points of discovery for me. But the point is, going back to Venus, Virgo, and your systems, the systems that you follow, looking at them with a new light, dusting them off, not overburdening yourself, but following something that you really feel you can commit to, and also stretching yourself a little bit. Like, pick something, a couple of things that you can begin to do. This month would be great because, and we're talking about October 8th through November 8th is when Venus is in Virgo. Then she's going to move on to do some other wonderful things in Libra. But right now, imagine implementing something and giving yourself the opportunity to try it out, test it out, explore with it for the next 3 months. That's what I'm doing. I'm giving myself the opportunity to explore for 3 months following this certain routine. And what I wrote is somewhere I wrote in my journal, I said that you work really well with having a container. So a container meaning whether it's a space to work with others, or a container meaning I'm going to aim to send my email to my newsletter either Sunday or Monday. That for me feels like a container, like, oh, I'm planting my little seed there. And then it gives me something to work towards, to look forward to. And in the moments when I'm like, I don't know what to say, or I don't, well, that's never the issue. I always know what to say. There's just a lot of things I want to say. That's more of the issue, which comes down to then also like discerning and having sort of my own sense of how to give it form, how to put it together, but not risk not sharing it. Do you know what I mean? When you have something that you're like, this is so good. I want to say this. I want to share this, but then we don't. I mean, we have to find some way to bring ourselves into, and it has to do a lot with trust, confidence, comfort with yourself. And that is built over time. And that is built with consistency. And that is built with moment by moment, stepping stone by stepping stone. So that's, yeah. So see how that resonates for you and how you can weave it in. And that's also going to help you define this concept of understanding who you are, what works for you, which is part of the Aries North Node that we're collectively working with. This question, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Is going to keep ringing in our collective consciousness and is going to keep showing up in different ways in your life. Be present to it. Be willing to sit with it, to discover with it, to get curious about it, to answer it. Yesterday, I was talking with someone who I was doing a reading, and she expressed the classic phrase that, it's like, oh, I'm afraid to do fill in the blank because somebody might say or think, who does she think she is, right? That like, who does she think she is to say that, to do that, to want that, to aspire to that, to create that, whatever. I certainly have felt that many times. It's one of the biggest things that I worked with very intentionally within my own inner belief system. And I remember, and I was sharing this anecdote with her a few years ago, having that be this thing that was plaguing me. And it was such a source of like siphoning my energy whenever I wanted to do something, this fear of, well, who does she think she is? And one day I said, okay, I'm going to answer that question. So hardly anyone ever is going to actually say, who do you think you are? They might. So this question is a symbolic exercise, which I invite you to do. It will help with your North Node in Aries, leaning into the conversation. Is imagine somebody kind of in a judgy tone, like, who do you think you are? And you just take a breath and you go, well, I'll tell you who I am. And then you write it out. In my case, I recorded a video that I was originally just going to do for me. I ended up sharing it. I'm not sure where it exists right now, and then I wrote it and I said it in a video. So this idea of using the words on that list, like really writing it out and then expressing it on a video, felt like a way to just activate that even further for me and how I work. But it's very powerful for you to sit with, oh, I will tell you who I am. This is who I am. And by the way, who I am is always evolving and growing. And I'm discovering myself more and more. And I'm getting to know myself. But who I am is this. And I went from the most basic things, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, to more complex things about my personality and my beliefs. And it was a beautiful exercise. I kept it very simple. It was all in one page. Do it if it feels good. It might uncork something for you and it might challenge you. But here comes Venus again to remind you of how worthy you are, to remind you that you are whole. And in her Virgo space right now, she is absolutely reminding you of your wholeness, of your beauty, of your ability to create new worlds. And that what you hold within you is absolutely precious and necessary. And so it is, That's good coffee. eclipses. Where are we on this video? 30 minutes. Okay, that's not too bad. I hope you're still hanging out. If you are, leave an emoji in the comments. Eclipses. Okay. There's a lot of transformation in the air, my friend. Let's all ride the wave together. Let's support each other through it. Let's be optimistic about it. Eclipses are, to loosely quote Pam Gregory, who I love, eclipses are basically like this jolt that brings you back onto your destined path. It's kind of like it can bring something unexpected. And eclipses, based on different cultures and different belief systems, eclipses are either harbingers of doom or incredibly magnificent portals into the unknown, liminal spaces where anything is possible, and they will jolt you back onto your path of destiny. I choose to work with that definition, while also understanding that eclipse season can be chaotic. But then again, I go into, well, from chaos, new things are born. Eclipse season can be very unexpected. Are you open to the unknown? How do you support yourself in being more and more open to the unknown? Eclipses might show you things that you don't feel you're ready to understand. Maybe you don't think you're ready, but if they're showing up for you, you are absolutely ready. Trust that your soul is ready, and that you may not understand it logically right away, but in time, when you keep following that thread, more and more will be revealed to you through your daily existence. So this eclipse season, we're working with a new moon in Libra and then a full moon in Taurus. Libra happens to also connect with the collective South Node right now, which is working its way through Libra. The Aries-Libra axis works with basically the we and the me. Aries being the me and Libra being the we. That is coming into just this point of healing. Not to mention the work that Chiron has also been doing in Aries for a number of years, healing the understanding of who you are before you radiate out your gifts, your service, your whatever it is that you want to put out into the world, which that's not even the phrase. Everything you are, you put out into the world all the time. You are always in a state of creating energy, always. You are literally like this generator of energy that's just putting it out all the time. Tending to our Aries self, tending to our spark of life, tending to your raw self of really like, who am I and what do I need? That primordial space of just like first breath and what does that feel like is vital for us right now. And on the contrast, we have Libra, which is like every other sign, an incredibly beautiful, sign. But when we look at it from the perspective of the South Node and what we're leaving behind, then we want to see what are the more shadowy, not highest vibe aspects of Libra, which are, I keep thinking the main one is this sense of codependency, this sense that I work in favor of making everybody else feel good before me. There's many reasons why this may be showing up in your life, and I encourage you to explore perhaps, with somebody that can support you in untangling the codependent habits that you might have, because there's a lot of freedom on the other side. And it is a tough one to sit with because many of us have been conditioned and acculturated to take care and do for others first and foremost, and then look at ourselves. Whether it's the woman who wants to take care of everybody else or man who wants to take care of everybody else and puts herself in the very back, or in your, you do it in your personal life, in your professional life, or in your business where you're constantly asking, what does my client need? And then I will turn into that. That is a sneaky one that we've been fed for a long time. And while that question of what does my client need, what's keeping them up at night, what do they desire is absolutely vital. Until you know yourself and what you can give and what you feel passionate about sharing with the world, whatever you're doing in favor of somebody else is actually, hot take, is more of a, this is a strong word, but it's almost like a manipulation, because you're not doing it from an authentic essence. You're doing it based on a response of what they need, not a proactive sharing of who you are, grounded in your strengths and in your weaknesses, right? But understanding who you are and then operating from that place. Again, this is a deeply multi-layered conversation, but I have consistently felt ever since I was feeling into the movement of the North Node into Aries. I'm talking about last year, I was having these conversations and putting this out because the question, who are you, is going to challenge us. It's going to liberate us. But before feeling the freedom of understanding who I am and then approaching the world through the beautiful Libra lens of building bridges, of connecting, of co-creating, of communicating, of finding the balance between all things, if I don't know who I am and what I want and what I need, that is not going to be an authentic reflection. And I will say also, we are living in a multi-layered, multi-dimensional existence where we are working around a lot of other people, living with people, caring for people. I certainly understand this firsthand as a caregiver. And so one of the biggest journeys for me and growth experiences has been how to still see myself as the epicenter of my world. And then from there, everything radiates out. Like you are the sun of your solar system. And trusting and knowing that when I have that belief, tricky as it's been to get there and to really trust that and to operate there, when I am there, everybody else really, truly does benefit. My husband benefits and how I care for him and how I love him and how I spend our precious time together. My son benefits, my clients benefit, my friends benefit, my family like that is the place where, and it takes doing work to get there and bringing that question back up time and time and time again. And it will challenge us and it will trigger us and we might have a lot of times where we recoil back and we go, let me go back to this thing because that felt safer, like what I know. But there's something else that will keep tugging you forward. And so keep leaning into the spaces where your growth wants to happen. Eclipses are an incredible time, and one of the exercises that I'm going to do personally, and I'm going to guide some clients in, if you want to do it, join my Patreon, but I will give you a sneak peek here so you can do it yourself. I'm calling it All the Forms I've Left Behind. This came up to me in Costco on Monday. Yes, Costco. I was having some personal revelations and grieving while I was walking through the aisles of Costco buying a few groceries, because I remembered moments before in my life as a newly married woman, even before we were married, going to Costco with my hubby and just having these moments of beautiful domestic life. And they were so normal. And sometimes we would get on each other's nerves, of course. So I'm not saying beautiful domestic, like, oh, butterflies and rainbows. It was just normal. And I had all these thoughts of walking with him through Costco, buying things, and then having Skylar and buying the diapers. And, you know, whether he then would start going to Costco himself most of the time because he was a teacher. So he could go after school. It was a little easier. And there seemed to be all these memories wrapped up in this one place. And it just brought everything to life. And I found myself almost in tears walking around Costco, breathing through it. And I didn't want to push it all down because I wanted to feel it and I wanted to sit with it and I wanted to take a tender look at it. And while I was exploring all of these feelings, this idea of the phrase, all the forms I've left behind. And basically, it's all the forms of myself. And so I created this little grid that I'll share with you here. And it says on the top, all the forms I've left behind. And I added these really cool stickers I got at Michael's the other day, this little washi tape that has like little butterflies. It's a really fun set. I'll show it to you. Here. It's like a Halloween theme. I love creep it real. But see, it's got all these like delicious witchy. By the way, I see the Venus flytrap here. Skylar and I just got a little Venus flytrap. His name is Chompy. You probably see it because I'm going to put footage of it before this video. Anywho, all the forms I've left behind. It has 8 boxes. Why 8? Well, I had a feeling that 8 would be the thing, although I was like, wow, is it really that many? And here's my guidance for you. How I landed at 8 was I pulled a card for it. I pulled a tarot card to get some guidance around that. I asked specifically. And the card I pulled could not have been more perfect because it was the 8 of Cups. 8 of Cups is literally a card about leaving things behind and trusting that you are moving in a new direction. My mind was a little blown when this came up because, and also like, of course. So 8 of Cups, and cups are about emotions, and cups are about pouring out and the things we hold. And so there is this beautiful transformative moment here as we enter this first eclipse and then moving into the next eclipse. And by the way, if you're watching this later on, go ahead and do it because the energy that's being channeled here will absolutely support you in that like moment in time. So what I'm going to do, what I encourage you to do, and what I'll do with my clients is each of these is basically going to represent a form of myself that I've left behind. You get to pick who it was. For you, obviously, they'll be different for all of us. For example, there could be my child self, my teen self, my high school self, my college self. There could be the MA, the Maria Leandra that first started out in the working world. And what I'm going to do is write just in very simple words. Maybe it'll be little images or whatever feels good for you. But let's say words. I'm going to describe her in very simple words. And I'm going to keep it simple so that it's just contained in that space. I will describe her. How was she feeling? What did she believe in? What scared her? What did she prioritize in her life? How did she dress? That also struck me. Based on the phases of your life, what kind of attire you're drawn to? Where did she live? What were some of the basic like big themes that defined her moment in time? And then I'll fast forward a little bit more. Maybe it's me, maybe there's a certain relationship in your life that equates into like a form you've left behind. Maybe it's, your if you're married, when you first got married. For me, then, I keep fast forwarding. It's like, I became a mom. So who's that form? I then started my path as an entrepreneur and shifted away from being in corporate America for so many years. That's a whole other form. In between, my husband gets diagnosed. Then there's a whole other form that begins to take shape. You get my drift. Will you have more than 8? 100% absolutely. Or you may have less than 8 that you think about. Absolutely. My encouragement is to use this as a, again, container to do this exercise with the 8 forms that come to mind. Be intuitive about it. Be graceful about it. You're in a space of exploration. There's no right or wrong. This isn't a test. Nobody's giving you a grade. This is simply an exploratory exercise. And whoever does it, just the courage and the curiosity of leaning into it is enough to don't beat yourself up over any of the sort of logistics of it. I think it would be very powerful to do it either the eclipse day this weekend or just in between the 2 eclipses. Imagine that there's a portal that's opening up, like this liminal space that we're walking. The veil is thin and it's And the fact that Venus is in Virgo will support you in giving it form, which is so vital for those of us that have all these ideas. This is why rituals, ceremony, spells, walking a magical path, all the things I talked about in my Everyday Magic video series are really valuable, because they give you like a pulse and a rhythm. It's like a heartbeat that is constantly beating and sustaining you, and then creates a foundation for everything else that you want to create from there. It's like having really rich soil. As you're going through this experience, maybe you want to pull a card for each of your selves that you've left behind. And this phrase, leave behind, feels like melancholy. And I was debating, should it be something else? When I say leave behind, I'm not saying forget them, cast them off, they don't matter anymore. It is an honoring, and it is a celebrating of these forms, whether they felt joyful or they felt that period of life was incredibly painful. We are honoring and celebrating where we've been, but we must embrace the energy of, and that is now gone. That is not my present reality. That is not my current form. Because imagine again, of your current container, we've been getting a lot of transformative energy over the past few years, personally, collectively. Right now, a lot of us are sitting a lot of us are sitting in the space of like, what the heck? What happens now? And to quote my dear friend Sage, she said something really powerful in a session we did the other day, where she said, we were talking very vulnerably about what it means to keep going when you don't necessarily have the metrics of success that say, hey, you're doing good, whether it's clients or numbers or money that you're bringing in, and you're like, oh my God, and she said, we were talking about it, and she said, I know there's a shift happening and that I'm part of the shift. And I was like, beautifully said. So we're in this like wobbly territory. It doesn't mean you have to be completely wobbly and like, well, whatever. This is where we can employ the tools and the magical understanding of leaning into the unknown with feeling safer in what will emerge as new, and embracing it and welcoming it and working with it and co-creating with the cosmos. This is what it is. It's like, oh, eclipses, transformation, brings you onto your destined path. Sudden things might happen. And also there's an emptying out. There's this like emptying out to like honor this new fertile ground for you to grow yourself. Like show yourself, grow yourself. Just allow, I'm going to use one of the metaphors that I used in an email recently that I love, is to lay out the welcome mat for yourself to come home. This form of yours that is currently existing, to come home. Lay out the welcome mat. Say, hello, welcome. Because that will, just the image of it, this idea of hugging yourself and welcoming yourself back in this new form that is testing new things out, experimenting with the world, probably feeling a little like wobbly, like, ooh, like that's all good. We have some answers. We probably have a whole bunch more questions. Being in that space and welcoming yourself in your new form home is a beautiful thing. After you've done this exercise, you can either leave it in your journal like this, or you can choose to do it in a piece of paper and then burn it safely. You can choose to bury it. See what it feels like. See what that process of honoring and releasing feels like. Hold yourself in tender space. Don't take yourself too seriously when you're doing it, and just get curious. Imagine this idea of decluttering this closet, and then the fact that it's like not a massive undertaking. It feels massive, but we're trying to make it a little bit more palatable. Like, okay, I can do this. I want you to feel like you can do this. It's big, but you can do this. It's like you're decluttering out in this closet where all these boxes of your future forms existed. And while we want to honor and celebrate them, imagine, if you will, this is the visual I'm getting. There's a closet that's holds all these boxes that hold your former forms. And they're kind of dusty. You haven't opened them in a long time. Some of them you don't even want to look at anymore. But during this season of time, you choose to take a breath. You light a candle. You create sacred space for yourself. And you do this exercise, which is symbolic of pulling out box by box, looking at tenderly at what's inside, and then putting yourself, that form of you, in a beautiful frame on a wall. Like, oh, there she is. Notice that there's no or less baggage. The box is, we're releasing the box, basically. We're allowing that to dissolve. And instead, we are showing to showcase and portray that self in this symbolic wall of portraits. All of a sudden, our energy shifts from holding all this. There she is. There he is. There they are. Okay. And the next one. This will probably open up more things that you want to keep exploring. Again, be gentle with yourself. Ask for support if that feels good. But know that you can absolutely go down this road with yourself. If anything gets a little too tricky or cringy or feels really uncomfortable, hold yourself in a space and see where you can go. And if not, just, put it down, shift your energy, maybe pick it back up again. And if not, maybe it's not the moment, just because I'm giving you the idea doesn't mean that it's the right moment for you to do something like this. Don't force it. Just create the space for it. And see what develops. And if you do the exercise and you want to email me your thoughts on what showed up for you, I would love to hear that. Last but not least, as we're rounding out the 52 minutes, I want to reflect a little bit on how incredible it is to have the sense of awareness of yourself, to work with what's coming through, the courage that it takes to walk this path, the courage that it takes to ask the question, who are you? Who am I? Who am I? What do I want? The courage that it takes to continue working towards your ideas, your goals, your dreams. The beautiful magic of the daily things that move us, that challenge us, that grow us. Your soul has chosen this lifetime with a certain set of things that they wanted to learn and experience. Trust that. That is my belief. Know that you are equipped to move through whatever challenges are happening in your life right now. It doesn't mean fake it till you make it. It doesn't mean look on the bright side. It doesn't mean be positive all the time. It simply means you are equipped. You are equipped. You have what it takes. And that's not a cliche like, oh, just keep going. It is a real, true honoring of the strength that you have within you and the capacity that you have to move through things. Often it's not until we're faced with the unimaginable pain that we never even thought could happen that we realize just how capable we are. And so remember that. Breathe, and create. Find your sacred sanctuary. Find the things that help weave more magic into your life. Dwell in your imagination. Sustain yourself with whimsy and love. Allow your inner child to connect in with you. And you're not alone. You're not alone. Sometimes it can feel so isolating to walk around this world believing in what we do and getting pummeled by circumstances or people or experiences or harsh things. And what we've ended up doing, unfortunately, is dimming our light. Dimming our light. Dimming our light. Well, I say now we get to honor the light within, honor your spark of life, and move that dimmer switch a little bit higher so you can illuminate your own sparkly light bulb. And we can create this beautiful grid of a random assortment of light bulbs all over the place. And I honor your courage. I see you. I see your magic. I see how you grow yourself every day. I see your questions. I see your doubts. We're all in this together. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for liking, subscribing, sharing. Did I say commenting already? Thank you for subscribing. I really want to grow this little space on the internet. And if you want to join my newsletter or check out my offerings, everything will be in the description. And thanks again. I'll see you next time. Adios.